Welcome to the OMG Podcast, brought to you by Onward Media Group. Join us as we explore storytelling with video, life as a startup, and community impact in Kitchener-Waterloo. We dive into industry trends, behind-the-scenes insights, and the challenges and successes of our journey. Whether you're a creative, entrepreneur, or just passionate about video and storytelling, we've got something for you. Now let's get into today's episode.
Welcome to another episode of the show, the OMG Podcast show. Tentatively titled.
Yeah.
The OMG Podcast. I think that just makes sense.
The OMG Podcast? Yeah.
I think.
OMG, a podcast.
I thought of that too.
You did.
OMG : a podcast.
Yeah.
Or OMG a podcast.
OMG, a podcast.
OMG AP. OMGAP.
Oh.
I'm trying to make fetch happen, okay?
No, it's not gonna work. It's not going to work.
But yes, welcome to another episode. My name is Jordan Taylor. I am the video program manager here at OMG.
I am Darren Bondy, the CEO here at Onward Media Group, and we are excited to, bringing updated content to you on the regular, and this is one of the platforms where we get to do that. So it's exciting to be able to chat, talk about what we know in industry insights, video in general, and kind of our journeys as well. So I think it's a good chance for us to get that out there.
Yeah, definitely. And the podcast medium is a great form to be able to do that in, right? It allows us to be a little bit more conversational. Mm-hmm. We can go into those deep dive tangents that otherwise would be harder to do in like a 30-second, 1 minute thing.
Scripted and targeted. This is a little bit more free flowing. So it's a chance for us to kind of candidly talk about our expertise, our services, why we do what we do. And I think it's kind of the platform that makes the most sense for it.
Yeah, definitely. And we encourage anybody listening to also watch this if you're watching on Spotify or YouTube to see the video aspect, as we are a video storytelling company.
We are.
So that is our bread and butter. And that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today, video storytelling. So Darren, what would you say is like video or I guess like video in general, like for you, and feel free to dive into your own personal experience with video, like why video over anything else?
I think video at present is probably like the thing we as a society ingest the most.
Yeah.
Like whether it's attention span or the types of content we like to absorb, there's a lot less reading happening. There's a lot less listening happening. I mean, podcasts in general is still a very popular form, but we spend so much time ingesting video that it's in our faces all day long on our phones, TVs, computers, tablets, whatever. We're just constantly taking in video, and I think it's obviously the biggest platform for consuming media and content. Even if you just look at the trends in society where there's print media is dying, as we know, and a lot of it's obviously digital based, but in general, I think we could all make the argument that we prefer to ingest media in that form in video, because whether it almost seems like a bit of a problem where we can kind of tune out, even if we're tuning out the video, but you're just sitting there and you want to be able to listen to something, see something, and capture it that way versus, again, sitting down, reading an article. I do think the audio podcast still has a platform because, again, people commute, they're doing work around the house, want to be able to have that thing to either learn or be entertained. But I think video is definitely, it's a big part of everybody's life. Literally everybody, right? Like you have a phone, you're ingesting video, whether it's Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, YouTube. And I think really being able to take advantage of that, whether it's for personal use or business, is kind of that next element, which is, it is an important medium to understand how to use. And that's kind of what we do. We help with that, right? Is kind of using our experience in video. And even when thinking about the personal component of video, like back when I started, getting involved in video 20 years ago, YouTube was so new. There wasn't social media. There wasn't a platform where you could consume video that wasn't outside of film, TV, and that kind of thing. So, YouTube getting its start and getting interested in video at that point, it felt like it was, I was ahead of my time in terms of wanting to use video and create content that was engaging. But back then it wasn't the same medium it is today.
Right.
And I think, having it so accessible today and being so useful, the goods and the bads with the internet, but the creativity and the content you get to see every day on the internet, is just it's inspiring in a way. It's also like it's educational, it's informative. It teaches you can learn about brands and businesses that you wouldn't have heard of otherwise because you're consuming it in that format, right? And I think that's the power of video when it comes to business and storytelling, is that it gives a platform to a business that if they don't have that presence, they might not be. There might be people out there that don't get a chance to see them.
Exactly. And I think too, even like I can't remember where I was saying this, but even the idea that video is probably the closest to a face-to-face interaction that you can get in the digital world, right? Like you and I are both sitting here in person. So this is truly face-to-face, right? But this interaction, even in a podcast form or an interview form or a meeting form, could be done utilizing video. You put a camera on you put a camera on me, and through the power of the internet, we're still able to have something as close as possible to this experience without it being that. Whereas if we were just audio, you'd have that, like I wouldn't be able to see your facial expressions. I wouldn't be able to read your body language the same kind of way if it was just audio, let alone if we were emailing back and forth or text. Right. So video is like the closest you can get to face without being actually face to face. So I think that plays into it too. You know what I mean? And
I think it gives, when it comes to trying to get brand awareness or even just show off who you are as a person, if you're an authentic, genuine human being and you're passionate about your business, you're passionate about your story, that comes off in video a lot better than it would in other platforms. You want to send out an email blast to potential clients and to leads, that doesn't show your character, your authenticity, your personality,
your quirks.
Yeah, your quirks, your everything. There are pieces of us that can show off, especially in a setting like this where it is candid. This is me being me. This is you being you. This isn't scripted. It's us talking about what we're passionate about and how we want to help other businesses. And I think, again, the video component of that is an opportunity to showcase the human element of your business and show off kind of what you either do, whether it's a product you sell, the services you provide. It's an opportunity to showcase that, again, in a digestible form of content. And I think that's really the value of what video can do. And whether it is in a cinematic, storytelling type of format, or if it is podcast formats, more informal, product shots, demonstrations, even showcasing an event, right? Yeah. If you have an event, you're like, hey, our event was great, here's some photos from it. The video kind of brings in the atmosphere so much more than that, even just the photos of an event, right? And we've covered a few events where just having that, even just doing whether it's testimonials or capturing the B-roll of an event, it really kind of encapsulates that atmosphere so much better than a photo would do. And I think that's a huge value add in that sense as well.
Exactly. And to be able to, I think it also just denotes a more intentional kind of perspective, right? When you're able to say like, okay, here was our event. Here's a couple quick photos. Right? That could have been someone just took out their phone, thought about it after the fact. Okay, let's get a shot of this, shot of that. But when you have a video, an actual crew of video folks that come in and intentionally capture everything, it makes your brand, it makes your event look that much more elevated.
Yeah.
Right. Because, we talk about how Casio gets our lighting right, gets everything great. Casio's our cinematographer, for those who don't know. And he gets everything kind of like put together in a way that just elevates it. It looks like an even more elevated aesthetic than what's there like in real life, like in person, IRL, as they say.
Yeah. And it makes me actually think too a little bit about some of the misconceptions about coverage like this, because our phones are, can shoot in 4K now. They can capture pretty high quality content. people think, oh, well, like, I can just, I don't need services for this. I can just do it myself. Well, there is a big gap between that level of quality and the cinematography, right? There's the quality of the equipment, the lighting, the effort, the expertise in the lighting situation, whether it is even just making sure that we're capturing it in a way that is conducive to having good content versus someone just grabbing their phone.
Exactly.
And I think there's layers to that as well. And so that is one of the things when you think about is, okay, why would I hire a crew to cover an event when I can just have my intern go around with their iPhone? You can do that. You can get content of that. It's probably going to be good for social, and it's something that people do. But if you want something that's going to really elevate your brand, show off that professionalism as well, like there's a layer to that you just can't get without going out and using this equipment. You can rent this equipment. Do you have the expertise to use it? Maybe.
Exactly.
Can you figure out how to use it? Maybe. But that's what we do. We have decades of experience in this field. And this is where, this is why you would use a service like this, because you don't, it takes the stress off having to worry about how we're going to capture it, and what kind of the quality of the product's going to be. That's what we do. And this is literally our livelihood. This isn't about, it's our passion too. So I think be able to kind of capture your event, capture the essence of your brand, is what our area of expertise is.
Definitely. And also too, like video is a much more engaging medium as well, right? Like even if I put myself in the perspective of the viewer or the consumer, right? Even if it is something as, surface level as social media, right? Is just like, like a screenshot of like text or a screenshot of like a note on somebody's phone. Is that going to capture my attention? It might, but it's going to take a lot to capture my attention that way. A photo will do a better job of capturing my attention, but a video with some kind of narrative where there's an actual story arc in there, right? There's a soundtrack that goes with it. There's shots that also tell a story apart from the actual meat and potatoes of whatever is featured in the video, but the actual like cinematography and the intentional choosing of, okay, what gets featured in what order and at what pace, that taps into an emotional layer that we all have as human beings that I think is one of those things that you don't necessarily realize when you're thinking video. You're just thinking, okay, it's a bunch of moving pictures, but there is something bigger than that, and that is what brings about that emotional reaction, especially to like, we've done work with like community organizations where we're telling like really impactful stories, right? Not to say that, a product launch isn't impactful, like depending on what the product is, like that could be impacting just a massive number of people's lives, right? But the tapping into the emotional aspects of humans, because that's who's going to be consuming video content is other humans, and being able to kind of pull on those emotional strings a little bit is something that video is really, really good at, like just in general,
Yeah. And I think on that note, when you think about some of the content that's out there that is the most engaging and is gets the most traction, is the ones that pull an emotional response from it.
Exactly.
Right. Whether it's cute puppies or, something about, beneficial charitable organizations that are helping their community, it does drive that interest. It did make me think a little bit more. I want to get into kind of the storytelling component of video, right? Where it's not just a collection of random clips. Part of this journey when you do video with us, or when you should do any type of video, if you want to there should be a story. Yeah. And a story consists of a narrative. A story consists of a beginning and an end, and how that journey goes. And I think that's where we come in, is we're going to help you tell that story. Like, obviously we're going to need you to fill in some gaps and give us information, but part of our role is to be able to extract the rest of that story from you. So I do want to get into that a little bit. Because kind of walk us through a little bit about that process, kind of how you see the story. You talked about, again, in what order do we put these things together as the video program manager, someone who's kind of taken what we've captured and building out that story. Maybe just walking through a little bit of that.
Yeah. So for me, it's the first part is understanding what story we're trying to tell, right? And that may be from the conversation with whoever we're working with, like the client, and let's say they have an event that they're doing, right? And we want to show not just the event, but why this event is important, right? So part of doing that is through those, it starts in those conversations, right? And just asking the question, okay, why is this event important? Well, because of the impact this is going to have in the community. There are people who have gone through this situation, that situation, that leads up to the purpose of the event. And then we can reverse engineer that and say, okay, well, when I think about the end product, what would be great would be to show kind of the situations that the people who are attending the event go through prior to the event that primes them. So if it's like an event where people are sharing their stories amongst each other and want to feel empowered by whoever the panelists are, let's say, or something like that, right? Showing some of the attendees stories beforehand, right? So it might be doing a testimonial, asking if they have footage that they're able to share, and then being able to splice that into create like context, right? Even, potentially grabbing some footage of those people's situations that lead to why the event is so impactful in context, right? And then being able to factor that into I work in timelines, right? Working in Final Cut Pro, right? So putting that into the timeline, right? But then also, again, not only capturing the event, but capturing the space in which the event is taking place, right? So that'll be like you putting your drone up there and capturing, whether it's people walking in or something like that. And that adds just like these little chunks of the story as opposed to just, okay, here's a shot of the person speaking. Yeah. Right? Because that's video, right? But storytelling is capturing everything about why what is in the video matters, right?
Yeah. And I think there's another layer to that too, where, we talk about some of the businesses that we've worked with, the opportunity, whether it is, okay, this is a company that wants the opportunity to talk about who they are, how they got started, where they are today, why you should choose them as a company. There's a narrative there where it's like, okay, if it's a small business, for example, you get to talk about, okay, this is someone who's clearly passionate about this type of work. This is their origin story, kind of capturing that part in a narrative, right? Right. There's a component of it that, a story can be told verbally. Yeah. And I think having that component of it is valuable. And then it's how do you creatively supplement that on the other side of it? A lot of times, to keep a video engaging, you want something that's going to have some more meat and potatoes outside of just a talking head, right? Talking head has value. There's parts where, I want to get a specific point across. I want to be able to articulate our vision. I want to articulate, why you should buy our services. But if you can support that with content that showcases those things, whether it is showcasing the services you provide, the product you sell, the people you are, the group of the company, whether you're, an office space or an event space, or, again, you're selling a product line, showcasing the meat and potatoes of your business on top of having that narrative where you're going to tell that story, or you're going to tell that, there's a story arc of, this is where we started, and, we were a small business and we're building up and we want to create that content, and we're going to provide you with, this service, and we're going to sell you this product, and then they're going to come back down and we're going to wrap it in a bow and say, this is who we are. This is why you should work with us. Yeah. And we're excited to do that. And that in that video, if done properly, it really does kind of show off the personality, the authenticity, just the passion that they have for their business in a way that a cold email, a cold call, like those things don't have that same impact. Yeah. If I see something from you that catches my attention, it says this person's very clearly passionate about what they do. If I have a need for that service, I'm going to be interested in that. It's going to at least pique my interest to say, I want to know more. Yeah. I think that the value of that beyond saying I can, get on a phone call and tell you my story, but getting that first kind of that interest level from saying I've watched a video that's talked about your story and now I'm interested in hearing more. Yeah. That's all you have to do.
Yeah. And there's so many layers that work with video, right? Like even the different elements, right? So like, for example, like the audio or the music, right? That's a whole other layer that can continue pushing that arc, right? And making that consistent as well, right? And even like circling back to with what you were saying, like, yes, you can do a talking head, and that can be informative, right? But I think by showing rather than telling, right? Like that whole thing.
Telling
like,
and showing.
Yeah, both.
Like talking
right?
heads get boring, let's be honest.
They definitely can. They definitely can, right? So and that's the whole idea about having like, you can definitely strive to articulate a particular message or a vision or whatever the end goal is, but by supplementing that with the visual aspect, right? The audio aspect as well. That again, like elevates
absolutely
everything that's like that you're hoping to kind of put out there too, right? And that goes for anything from like an event coverage, even internal corporate marketing, right? Like if there's a messaging or an initiative that like an executive or a C-suite person wants to put forth to the rest of the company, video is a great way to do that because it also personalizes the messaging as well, and it kind of it can remove some of those like barriers that exist, but like within a company's culture too, right? Like with if you even have like anything more than even like 10 employees, right? Like getting that video more intimate feel, right, from your leadership, that can hit a little bit differently than just a company-wide email, right?
I agree. Darren Bondy here with Onward Media Group. We're excited to announce that with our newly renovated studio space, we can now offer professional quality podcasts right here at Catalyst 137. Our services range from audio only to full multi-camera setups. We got a variety of backgrounds we can use to make sure it fits your style and theme. Contact us today to book your first podcast, and we'll chat soon. I want to transition a little bit to, I find one of the things that comes up a lot is a lot of businesses are interested in video. They know it's a medium that they need to use. A lot of times they don't necessarily factor in a budget for that, like whether it's budget or understanding the costs of to be able to do that stuff. The other part about it too is understanding the commitment from their side of it, right? Understanding kind of if where those hesitations lie for a client. And I think the two key things that stand out for me is, it's a time issue, right? Priority and a time issue, right? Yeah. Oftentimes these businesses are obviously very busy trying to keep, their operations running smoothly, and they think of video and they think of, I need to sink a bunch of time into that. That can be true. We aim to make that, alleviate a lot of that by doing a lot of the legwork. But then the other side of it too is understanding budget and understanding the costs associated with it, and understanding the ROI, right? Like, is there, like, if I invest money into video content, how do I know that's going to generate results? And I guess the answer is you don't. Like, obviously it's about the quality of the content, and what we provide is high quality cinematic content. How you utilize it, how you get it out there, there's layers to that too. And it's different for everybody. It's not a full stop marketing solution. You can't just say, oh, I've done video now, my marketing strategy is done. It's not. And that's the reality of it. Marketing is a very fickle and challenging industry to navigate. It's constantly changing. And video content is necessary, is valuable. You still have to figure out how to leverage it properly. And so I do think
it's a piece of the puzzle.
It's a piece of the puzzle. And I think you can't just stop there and say, oh, I'm good. I've got my video and I'm just going to put it out there and everything else should take care of itself. It's a fantastic resource to use. You have to also make sure that you're leveraging it properly beyond just, oh, I've captured the content. So I do think, how do we address that concern that, okay, how much time do I have to sink into this? I got to commit to this. What do we do that tries to alleviate some of that stress and pressure for a business? Yeah,
I think, man, good question. I think
I would say the first thing we do is obviously I think the storyboarding side of it, right?
Yeah,
so I think
definitely.
When you talk about our experience as creatives, myself, you and Cassio, when it comes to that, history of our experience through this field, the creative side, I wouldn't say comes easier, but we're kind of constantly in that creative mode.
Yeah.
And so when we, hear of a challenge or where we approach a client and there's discussions about, okay, we know we need video, we know we need to, we're trying to sell this product, or we're trying to get more people to understand what we do or why we do it, and we're not sure how. And then so I think one of the ways that we try to alleviate that stress is by having those conversations, asking the right questions, understanding from their perspective what those challenges are and how we can alleviate that or how we can solve those problems, and then presenting that. And I think if we can get to a point where those conversations for them is enlightening to them, they say, okay, well, this sounds like such a challenging issue, but you guys sound like you know what you're talking about. And I think the value we can add is let's take some of that off your plate. Yes, you still need to be involved.
Definitely.
We don't know your business like you do. We're going to learn the best we can about it, but we're going to try to extract that story from you in as painless way as possible. And I think that is something where it's listen, you need to be involved potentially, depending on the format of the video, but we're going to do what we do as professionals and people who are passionate about this type of work to try and make this as stress-free as possible for you.
Yeah, exactly. And because I think that's where the meeting kind of happens between them being experts in whatever their product, their event, their business, their industry, and then us being experts in, okay, how do we package that in the video form, right? Utilizing different storytelling techniques, right? Cassio on the cinematography side, the audio, the scoring, the Foley sounds if necessary, right? And being able to meld that together, work with the client, right? To say, okay, here's what we're envisioning on how you could tell your story, right? Utilizing some of these storytelling and video techniques, right? We work with them. We kind of do a little bit of a very collaborative kind of experience, right? And then from there, then we can build our production plan, right? And then I think that's where we internally start to be okay, so in order to get to this end result that the client seems like they're happy with, okay, we're going to need these shots. We're going to need these, props, or this lighting setup, this audio setup, right? And we get to then leverage our industry knowledge and our area of expertise, right? To be able to put that together. So then that way it can be as simple as the client just shows up, they do whatever their talking piece is, or we show up, we capture their event, or they bring their product to us, whatever it is. And it's as, quick and painless as possible. And then the ball comes back into our court, where we then start to piece everything together and get it packaged in a way that is cinematic, like you said, that is aesthetically pleasing, and hopefully as pithy as it needed to be, again, depending on the format. And then we get it back to them in a way that hopefully is going to be online or on aligned with their branding, their intention, their messaging, all of that, while also being as elevated, polished, clean, professional, and engaging as possible.
And I think the piece of it that actually adds that value as well is the efforts we put in on the side of trying to take the stress off you by doing the legwork to build out the production plan, all the pre-production requirements, the shots we're trying to get. We're going to collaborate with you, but the beauty of it is we're a small company in the sense that you're still going to, our responsiveness, our engagement with you is going to be extremely high. We're going to make sure that we're going to capture the things you need captured for your project, and we're going to collaborate with you that whole entire time. Exactly. At the end of the day, you also still get the big business feel of the quality of the product. So you get that small business feel where you get the responsiveness, you get the engagement, you get to talk to the team, and we're going to work closely with you. We're going to meet with you to storyboard and plan this out. And then when we show up for whatever the shoot day is, multiple shoot days, whatever the event is, we're going to capture the things based off our expertise and Cassio's expertise in terms of the cinematic side of it. and we're going to put something together that's professional, but we're also going to collaborate with you along the way. We're not going to just, okay, at the end of the day, you pay your flat fee or whatever it is, and we'll send you a product and that's it. You want revisions? Okay, we're going to charge you. No, we're going to work with you to make sure that you get something out of it that is of value to you, because that is what our goal is. We're not going to just say, no, this is what we decided. This is what we're going to do. No, we want you to be happy at the end of the day. And we're going to work hard to do that. We're going to collaborate with you along the way.
Yeah, exactly. And now, expanding on the idea of like our different areas of expertise as well. Like, we talked about the idea of business potentially having like an intern with a phone or something like that trying to capture video. That's an option, right? There is also the option of hiring just a standalone freelance videographer, right? People do that sometimes as well. And then you have the option where it's hiring someone like us, where we're a team of creatives with video expertise, but also slightly different areas of expertise, even within our team. So can you talk a little bit about how working with us would differ from working with a freelance videographer who may have video knowledge, but is still a little bit different from what we offer?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that stands out with a videographer is you're going to get that freelance feel to it, which is fine for some cases if that works for you. You're going to get a guy who's going to be, the director, the producer, the cameraman, the editor, the account manager. He's going to do all of those things, and if you get a good one, you might find value in that relationship. It's hard to be an expert in all those different areas. And so I think, when you hire a team, when you hire a company like us, you're going to get that full service experience, right? So not only are we experts in the area of the creative side, where we're going to help storyboard, we're going to help plan, we're going to help execute the shot sets. We have, people with decades of experience in the video field and in cinematography. And so you get that experience up front and throughout the process. So, the difference is when you have a full team in place, we're going to guide you through that step. We have the tools and the team in place to be able to execute on shoot day, execute in pre-production, post-production, and they're different individuals. Yeah, some of us, we do the same things, but at the same time, you're going to have someone who's going to connect with you regularly to guide you through the process when it comes to storyboarding, planning, arranging, figuring out even when it comes to your distribution plan. We're going to do those things ahead of time. We're going to talk to you about what your expectations are, what the deliverables you need, and I'm going to align on that in that format. And then when we come to shoot day, we have a team in place. We have the team to take that content then and create the visuals from it and create that content. And then when we deliver, we're delivering with you, we're talking, we're collaborating, we're working back and forth. And so that full production team with our different areas of expertise, like your expertise in years of video editing, I've been video editing for years on my own, and Cassio's experience as a cinematographer, combining all that together makes a pretty powerful team in comparison to an individual who probably has a half decent camera and maybe has some experience. Is it going to be cheaper to go to videographer route? Sure, but you get what you pay for, and depending on what your expectations are and what the deliverable is, that might work for you. But if you want that full service, the guarantee of quality product in a timely fashion too, like that's the other thing is that, you got a freelancer that's doing, multiple gigs a week, it's likely that you could be waiting 6-7 months for a product. And that's been the case I've heard, especially for things like wedding videography or corporate events.
Definitely.
A lot of times is people are frustrated with the delivery time. So I think because the team we have in place can focus on the different areas of our expertise, we get an opportunity to leverage that for each project. Like we lean on each of us for our areas and we collaborate, right? And that's the beauty of it, is that we're not solo in the sense that like, well, whatever I say goes, whatever you say goes, whatever Cassio said goes. Like we get to collaborate and work together and figure out, okay, how do we make the best product possible? And you're getting decades of experience in the creative industry. And I think there's a lot of value to that. We're not kids anymore, and this is our passion. This is our passion, right? This is what we want to be doing. We're not just doing, it's a paycheck. No, it's literally because this is what we're passionate about as individuals. And that's why we want to share that gift with others. And I think being able to do this as a job is, I would say for most of us, it's a dream come true. It's an opportunity to use our creative abilities to share, that experience with others. And I think being able to leverage that and provide that service is amazing.
Yeah. And I think the fact that it lines up with our own individual passions and I was actually just having this conversation earlier today, like the fact that I get to work and we all get to work in something that we've been interested in virtually our whole lives or since we were very young.
Yeah.
Like I think I picked up a camera at like 8, right? You still had to plug it into the VCR to get it to work and everything. So
that's my move. We got years, decades of experience.
Yes.
We know what VCRs are.
Yes.
I would record I remember my brother and I growing up, my parents would record us doing the most mundane things and we'd immediately want to watch it. Like there's half the clip is us going into the camera and be like, can we watch it now? And that's where some of my stuff was sparked from, was just that. But then I remember getting my own camera when it was like the mini VHS, like not even like that had like with an adapter.
Yeah.
You put it in the cassette and then it goes in the VCR and then you even like Please Be Kind, Rewind, right? Like,
yeah.
Kids these days don't even understand the joys of this is a tangent, but like going into like
this is very much you
Blockbuster.
getting into your old man shaking fist at the
like,
clouds.
do you remember the days of going into Blockbuster and like the shelf? You'd be like, well, I'm gonna get it one day. The new releases were like one night rental.
Yeah.
That was a fun experience.
was
Even just going in and being like,
unmatched.
like a bunch of other people, like date night people, like families, like picking a movie.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's just, it's just rest in peace, Blockbuster.
It's a different world. But I think what's cool is that we've gone from the VCR days,
the analog.
the analog to now not only the digital, but now the artificial intelligence enhanced digital. And I think like for me working a lot with the tools and Casio as well, what I really like is how the whole narrative, AI is going to take our jobs, especially in video, is like, now you don't need an editor or you don't need a animator or you don't need a whatever. Like this whole narrative is that these tools work parallel to what we do, right? Like for me, even like, again, like if we've captured something talking head, right, where it's somebody talking for 20 minutes, right? You can leverage some of these tools to almost act as like an editing assistant, right? To kind of go through some of that text, right? Or some of that transcript. And it will work alongside with the software I already use, Final Cut Pro, right? And being able to kind of leverage these tools to, again, back to the idea of elevating, right? And being able to leverage all the new technology that is coming out at a ridiculously rapid pace. It's really hard to keep up with. But that being able to elevate what we do, and then that further elevates what we're able to do for our clients. So like, is there any like what are your thoughts around like the new technology that is like, and how that helps us to do what we do?
Well, I think the first thing is the misconception that if it gets there is one thing, but the misconception that right now, you can just takes a video, press a button, and AI will take care of the rest. It's not there yet.
Not quite.
It's not, even if some people believe that. It can be that superpower that can boost your productivity, your efficiency, and also your creativity. There are elements to it that can spark some ideas that can provide those concepts, but it's not a full stop solution. So leveraging things like those ones, like even if you talk about like Autopod or like the Adobe things, like those things that can take what is a process that would take a long time to do manually, all of a sudden speeds it up.
Exactly.
Does it need human intervention? Yeah, because there's going to be mistakes. It's even like asking ChatGPT 4.0 to do a poster. Like they're going to have typos, they're going to have weird gaps. Like there are things about it that, you can leverage that and make some pretty compelling content. But human intervention is still necessary.
Definitely.
And I think I've heard stuff about this, how AI kind of kills creativity, and it does. It makes us lazy. It makes us use our brains less. So I think being careful to understand that the human element, the human layer of that creative touch on a video project specifically is still important, while being able to acknowledge that the AI features and the technology that exists currently can be leveraged to either speed that process up, create new areas of development when it comes to the types of video we can create. And I think there's a harmony that is still being figured out between the two. And I think that's that's like that sweet spot is, for any company, because one, the AI is constantly adapting and changing and growing. And it's like at a pace that you can't really keep up with.
It's exponential.
It's exponential and you can't keep up with it. And Curtis and I talked about this when he was on the podcast was like being able, like, it's happening so quickly. And the companies that can figure out how to use it properly and leverage it in the right ways will succeed. And I think we'll get a leg up on their competition because it is like a superpower. It is like wearing like Echo, whatever those suits are that can robotic suits. You can lift like 4,000 pounds. It is that in the form of, in the digital field. And so I think we're a funny generation when you think about the experience we've gone through. It is like you talk about, we started with analog. Yeah. We started with Blockbuster and we started with having to go rent movies on VCRs. And we've come through this age of like where DVDs came and went, and Blu-ray came and went. And now we're so focused on everything is just digital. So, again, I started recording. I was on a VCR and VHS tapes, and then I went from that to burning things on DVD, and then then putting things on USB sticks, and then now it's just everything is just almost strictly digital. There's almost everything.
I don't even think I have anything that reads a DVD.
No, most computers don't even so it's crazy to buy a new MacBook and there's no DVD ROM there's
no optical drive.
So I think it's really interesting for especially creatives of kind of in our age range that have gone through that evolution of technology because we've had to be adaptable as we go, right? We get to see this technology. I mean, I remember pre-internet, as bad as that sounds, it's going to age myself, but like internet wasn't an in-home thing for the first 10 years of my life. Yeah. And that wasn't a thing. And so kind of being able to grow with that technology was just an experience that not only does it make us, I think, more adaptable to the changes. We're not stuck in our ways and understanding that new technology is good and that you can leverage that to continue to kind of harness your own creative capabilities. So I think being able to keep up, find out ways to creatively engage AI for the better and not just to make us like lazier. You want it to be more efficient. You don't want it to do the job for you. Yeah. You want it to be able to kind of boost your ability to produce quality results without sacrificing, again, that personal element to it, which is, again, when you come to us, it's the reason these services cost money is because you are getting a team of experienced professionals, right? It isn't one guy with a camera and then he clicks a button and it creates this whole full service video for you. There are human hands on every step of the process, and that's what we're doing in the process. Is we're collaborating within the team, with our clients, to come up with creative solutions to create content for them that is useful. So I definitely think there's value in using AI, but being careful not to let it do all of the work because it makes you lazy. Yeah, and I think it similar to what you said before, like where it can actually spark some creativity as well. Like I think AI is to 2024, as we're recording this, what the internet was, right? To like the late 90s. Or even what in the world of audio and music, like what auto-tune was in kind of like that early to mid 2000s, where it can either make you very lazy or it can give you an idea of like... Ruined a lot of songs, too. It can, but it can also create like... when you use it as an effect, right? Rather than a crutch, right? Similar to AI, right? You can use AI to create like a video that looks just really abstract and lacks kind of a narrative. And that can be like visually very interesting, but it may not have that story arc that you're necessarily looking for. Or you can utilize it to enhance an existing story, right? Like there's anyway, we could do a whole episode on AI and who knows, maybe we will. Mm-hmm. But to kind of leave things off in like a really inspiring note, like what would you say within our industry is the thing that is exciting or inspiring you the most? I think it's being able to use, and I think we probably have similar answers. Maybe I shouldn't speak for you guys, but I think one of the things is, and even when I was like a freelancer growing up, when I was doing side projects and stuff, the ability to use my creative mind and talents and skills and experience I have to create something for someone that they couldn't do themselves.
Yeah.
And so I think being able to take, whether it is someone just has a really broad concept of what they're looking for, or they have no idea what they need, and we get to then put our brains together, capture content in a creative way, put it together, and then seeing their reactions. Like, it's fulfilling. Yeah. It's fulfilling. It's selfish.
Definitely.
Selfishly, it's like, hey, I love that they like this video because it's something that they're like, oh my gosh, we don't have the capabilities to do this. What you just did is amazing. It's fulfilling. There's a piece of it that is, it makes you excited to do the work, because even as you're doing it, like, I think we could probably all have similar experiences, is when you get into a flow with a project and you're like, this is coming together really nice. You're like, I can't wait. Like, I just can't wait for them to see it. I can't wait for them to be able to leverage that for their business and be able to promote it to their, network. And I think it's just a really kind of like fulfilling piece to say, we did something for somebody that they didn't have the capability to do themselves. Yeah. And we get to lean on our experience as a company and as individuals to kind of collaborate together and say, okay, I'm good in this area, you're good in this area, you're good in this area. Let's put this all together, put our heads together and put something really, put our passion into a piece of work. And it's art in a sense that it is, we're creating art. And so there's that really fulfilling, selfish piece where it's like, hey, this is really good. And it feels good to be able to create something that someone not only enjoys, but they get use out of. And I think that's, every time I get to do a new project with a client, that's the piece of it that stands out the most to me, is because you're like, you get to do something that we're really passionate about to give to them, and they get to then, oh, this is great. Like, that's such a good feeling. Again, it's selfish. Maybe it's selfish, but I just find it to be really fulfilling.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's a hard answer to top.
But I was saying, I think it's probably similar for most creatives.
I think that's
have that opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's definitely present in, I think, everything that we do. I guess to kind of expand off of that as well too, is like being able to also, like you mentioned, stay adaptable and then continue to learn about all the new technologies, the new processes, or taking stuff that works in, the corporate world and then combining that with the creative and learning about the new AI processes and marrying that with the creative, right? For the purpose of being able to create something that is fulfilling, for us, from an artistic perspective, and then also be able to marry that with what we're trying to help a business or a client be able to do. So I think it's the marrying of all of that together, right? And constantly learning these new things. And I really resonate with what you said, where I think the bulk of us are that make up this team are in that, have that relationship with technology and with video technology specifically, that we're able to stay curious, right, about everything that's possible, right? Like Cassio is always looking at what's possible,
and always
with
learning,
all the different,
and the constant learning, I think, is the piece to it. Is every shoot we do, every service we offer, when we use these things, we get to learn how to be better each time. Oh, we did it this way, but you know what? I've learned something about how my piece of technology works. I know Cassio is constantly talking about the things he's learning on shoots and different setups and different sets. So I think those opportunities exist for all of us. So not only do we get to, again, use our expertise, but we get to constantly learn. These are all opportunities for us to continue developing our skills and get better and better and better, and then leveraging technology. And
it creates a better product for the client at the end of the day. The softwares that I use, a few of them have almost daily updates, and sometimes they'll launch a feature that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to make this type of video not only easier to produce and hopefully be able to shrink that timeline, right, to speak to that delivery timeline pain point that you mentioned, but then also be able to deliver a better product and something that's a little bit even more artistically fulfilling and that serves the purpose of just whatever we're putting
getting
together.
Better.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's a good place to wrap it.
I think that's really good.
Like a good place to wrap.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thank you so much for listening, watching. Be sure to follow, subscribe, do all the things. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review so that this podcast can reach even more people. And if you are at all curious about looking into the world of video storytelling for your business, your brand, your company, your product, whatever it may be, please reach out to us. onwardmediagroup.com, Onward Media Group on Instagram, LinkedIn. Anywhere else I'm forgetting?
I think, YouTube, you can find us pretty much everywhere. And we'll be sure to be in your inboxes too if we have to.
Exactly. We will. Do people slide into inboxes? They slide into the DMs.
I'll slide into anything. Phone numbers, whatever. We'll slide. We'll just keep sliding.
We're Onward Media Group. We slide.
We slide.
And on that note, let's slide out. All right.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the OMG Podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and gained some valuable insights into storytelling with video, startup life, and our community impact in Kitchener-Waterloo. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on social media to stay updated on future episodes. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, reach out to us at info@onwardmediagroup.com.